One of the most exhausting things I've done in my entire life is raising a toddler, and I worked in retail. I currently have a 2-year-old named Dominic and a 5-month-old named Elena. Personally, I am not a child expert, but at the end of this video, I'll share some of my favorite resources from people who are child experts. With that said, there are a few things that I've kind of discovered over the last few months that have ended up being really helpful in Dominic and working through some of his toddler issues with him, and I wanted to share a few of those. Every child is of course different, so that's not necessarily going to guarantee that they will work for you, but they have worked really well for us. My tip number 1 is teaching him how to touch. The way my house is set up, it's pretty open, so it's hard to kind of corral Dominic into one area. So what we've done is baby-proofed his bedroom so he can stay in there, but then the rest of the house is mostly baby-proof. Of course, he's 2, so I'm always keeping an eye on him no matter what. But there are a few things that aren't necessarily dangerous that he does that are just annoying, or I don't want him to get in that habit, or they could be dangerous if he pushes the limits. Something that he started doing a few months ago that was not dangerous but very annoying was that he started pulling books off of the bookshelf. Not particularly dangerous, but I don't really want him pulling all of the books off of the bookshelf. I don't want to clean them up, and I certainly don't want to encourage him to play on bookshelves and end up climbing on it or getting in some kind of trouble that way. So I wanted this behavior to stop. I also didn't want him to have a meltdown, and I wanted to make sure the behavior would actually stop, not for him to end up doing the behavior when I wasn't looking. Toddlers really love being in control, so if you give them something positive that they can do rather than always telling them what not to do, I found with Dominic that's really helpful. I don't even know how I got this in my head. I don't know if maybe it was just from my years of dog training or what, but I had the idea to tell him to touch the books, not rather than pull him off. We would just touch the book ends, and I showed him what to do. I touched the books myself, and I said, okay, Dominic, touch just like this, touch all the books. And I encouraged him to touch every single book, and rather than pull them out, just to touch the books. Now, at first, he still was wanting to pull them off, but I'd say within just a few minutes, he was less interested in pulling them off and just liked to touch them. And then he drastically stopped pulling them out, and within probably a couple weeks, he wasn't pulling them out at all. He's maybe pulled a couple of them off once in the past about month. So that really improves that behavior. And I've used that touch command in other ways as well. We have some things that are kind of delicate, like we have a record player that's out in the open that has a plastic casing. So it's okay if he touches that, but I don't want him to grab it and pull it off. So if he gets too interested in that, I'll encourage him to touch. And I always show him the behavior that I want him to emulate. I think that's super important with toddlers because they love doing what their parents do. So we want to model behavior and physically be very hands-on with them, showing them what to do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. That really helps out my channel. Another way that we utilize this is with gentle touch. We use this a lot around his baby sister and with dogs, and sometimes he likes to play with my hair, and sometimes he gets a bit too rough. I don't want my hair pulled, so I'll tell him, okay, Dominic, gentle touch, brush mom's hair very gentle, and I'll show him how to do it. Same thing with his sister and his dogs. I'll show him, okay, touch Sissy like this, gentle touch, gentle touch. Same with the dogs. I don't want him pulling on the dog's hair or anything like that, so we just tell him, touch the dog very gentle, and he has done really well with that. I think between showing him something that he can do and us showing him exactly what to do has been really helpful. So I definitely recommend trying out something like touch or gentle touch with your kid, or whatever version of that works with your family. Number 2 is encouraging positive behaviors rather than always saying no. This is kind of similar to teaching touch, but just goes a little bit more in depth. If you have a toddler, you know what happens when you tell them no. Usually there ends up being kicking and screaming, meltdowns, and the behavior may or may not continue. So something that I found that works really well is, again, giving the toddler that control and turning their negative behavior into something positive. Now, of course, if your toddler is about to do something that's going to injure themselves, grab a pair of scissors, touch something that will burn them, something along those lines, that might be a situation where we can't really encourage the behavior in a positive way. So we don't want anyone getting hurt. But if it's something that isn't going to cause injury, we can steer our negative behavior into a positive behavior. Here are some examples. A few nights ago, I had a sheet pan with roasted okra for dinner. I lived in the South when I was a kid, and I still love okra. Let me know in the comments if you love okra, hate it, only like it fried. It's definitely a food that I love. But anyway, we had already eaten dinner, and there was there were a few pieces of leftover okra on the sheet pan on the stove. So it had cooled down, it wasn't hot, but I actually had an oven mitt next to the stove, and Dominic sees me grab hot things with the oven mitt or the hot pad. So he actually grabbed the oven mitt and he put it on his hand, and then he went to grab the sheet tray off of the stove. So, you know, of course, my instinct in something like that is, no, let mom put that away, don't touch that. If I would have done that, he would have had a meltdown, he would have been very upset, he would have said, no. So what I did instead, since there wasn't a risk of injury from it being hot, I let him grab it with the hot pad, and I guided it over to the table so it was a little bit lower and he could see it. And I showed it to him. I showed him, look, here's the okra on the sheet tray, and very good job putting that oven mitt on so you don't get burned. And I cut him off a little piece. He had had some okra with dinner, but I cut him off another little piece to try. And he just looked at it and he was very curious. He just wanted to see what was on there. And after probably not even a minute, he was done. He just wanted to see what was on there. He let me put the food away and clean everything up, and then he was completely happy. In the meantime, his curious mind learned that yes, it is good to use oven mitts around hot things. So he learned how to be careful in that situation. He learned about food. That generally helps kids be less of a picky eater. When they see how food is prepared, they're more likely to try it themselves, or if they help out with the food preparation. So that ended up being an all-around beneficial experience. Another example, this started a few months ago. Dominic started putting his kitchen toys in my kitchen sink. And that's not going to hurt anything, but it would definitely be annoying if I always had a bunch of toys in my sink. So when he started doing that, rather than telling him, no, don't put your toys in the sink, what I did is I spun it into a positive. I told him, Dominic, your food toys go in your kitchen sink. So I showed him how to put his toys from his kitchen set in his own little kitchen set. And then I took it one step further and I encouraged him, when he was done with his dishes, he uses plastic dishes, so he wasn't going to break anything. I showed him how to put his dishes in the kitchen sink. Can you put that stuff in the sink? Thank you. Thank you. Well, he's learning a positive behavior from spinning something negative into something positive. My tip number 3, this one is kind of a hack, so it might not be for everyone, but I'm sure there are parents in this situation that might be able to get some help from this. We've been potty training Dominic, and he is doing super well. He's mostly potty trained. He still does need to wear diapers during his nap and overnight though, because he'll let through those. For a while, he was giving us a big struggle to get his diaper on. He did not want his diaper, but he was happy about wearing his undies. Unfortunately, we tried undies during his nap a few times and he just would wet through them. So I really want him to keep wearing diapers until he's able to go through his nap. It was pretty much a disaster for a few weeks. Every time myself or my husband tried to get a diaper on him, he just threw an absolute fit. Sometimes we had to basically pin him down and put the diaper on him, kicking and screaming. It was not fun. So I'm trying to think of a solution. I'm like, there has to be a better way. But he was pretty good about getting his undies on. So I just started basically turning his diaper into a pull-up. And if you want to buy pull-ups, by all means buy pull-ups. I'm not sure if there are generic pull-ups, but whenever I look, they are way more expensive than diapers, and I still have plenty of diapers, so I don't want to switch to pull-ups yet. That might be an easy solution. But what I've been doing is basically turning my diapers into pull-ups. So before I put them on him, I just put the Velcro on here, and here. So DIY pull-up, and then I have him and then usually I'll have him stand up and just, I'll say, can you help me put your diaper on? And I'll say 1 foot, and then after he puts 1 foot in, we'll say 2 foot. And he almost every time has been super happy about getting his diaper on. I don't know if it's something with him just feeling like more of a big boy when he puts it on that way or what, but it has been way easier. So if you're having struggle with your toddler getting diapers on, you might want to try this. Those are all of my toddler parenting tips for now. As I mentioned, there are a few resources from experts that I love as far as parenting a toddler goes. I'll put links in the descriptions for them if I can find it. If you are on a budget, I would check out getting apps that hook in with your library card, and a lot of times you can actually listen to audiobooks through your library. You might just have to be on hold for a little bit. There's one called Overdrive, I think one called Libby, and they will hook into your library card. So definitely check those out. I recommend a couple books. The first is How to Talk So Little Kids Will Listen. That was a very insightful book, and we use a lot of the tools from that book. And then the other book, I'm not completely through it yet, but so far it's been really good. It's called How to Raise an Emotionally Intelligent Child. So far it has affirmed what I've been doing with Dominic and given me a few more tools to use as well. The other resource that I really like is Big Little Feelings. They have an Instagram account with lots of helpful posts there, and they also have a toddler course you can purchase. We did purchase the course and we're almost done with it. It has been very helpful. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. That really helps my channel. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your support.